Pat.
Okay. Looks like it popped up. There
It is. It usually pops up at the time, but there we go.
We are live.
Yeah, we are live for GuildofCon, and this is the LitRPG and the Apocalypse. It's not like we're already living one. So, I am your moderator, Jen, and I am here with these lovely authors who all have written apocalyptic stories in the genre. And I'm just going to do a quick few housekeeping pieces before we get started. So we are using StreamYard, which is linked into the post. So just click on the post. It'll grant permissions to Facebook, and it will redirect you right back here so you can chat and not come up as a Facebook user. We dropped questions into the chat. Say hi to your favorite authors, or say hi to your not so favorite. I don't know. It's fine. We all know it's Ryan. No, I'm just right on a roll with you. I don't know why. I'm so sorry, Ryan. But yeah, so we do have a Discord. So if there's any questions that you ask that do not get highlighted and asked, please drop into the Discord afterwards. And then also on the website litcon.net, there is the store, which all purchases 10% will go to the Heart International, or you can donate to the charity as well, which is providing relief funds to Ukraine. So with all of that, I'm going to start with Ryan. So he can go first, and he can introduce himself, let you know what books he writes, and we'll get started.
All right. Thank you very much, Jen. I'm Ryan DeBruin. I write primarily post-apocalyptic, so most of my series, except for Ether Flows, is post-apocalyptic. My premier series was Ether Collapse, which is Equalize Book 1. I actually do have it here somewhere. There we go. That's the cover, if anybody's wondering. And that's a 4-book series. And then my other post-apocalyptic is System Misinterpret, which has got a new cover change. So yeah, I love post-apocalyptic. I find it a lot of fun to write, and I'm extremely excited to answer some questions just because, yeah, this is my jam. And then obviously I've got Lars on this side. Reverse cameras.
Lars.
Yeah. Hi, Lars Markmuller, and I'm Danish, so if I say something that makes absolutely no sense, that's definitely because of that, not because I'm being an idiot. I actually haven't written any post-apoc stories yet, but start next year, there's going to come something out that definitely has a bit of apocalypse in it. Apart from that, I have my Roll of Chains, my Bard series, and my Master of the Horde, and this is a German version just to confuse everybody, which is a portal fantasy with a dragon main character. So I love writing quirky, weird characters, and yeah, that's one of my favorite things. And post-apoc stories is also one of my favorite scenarios, and one of those I've read the most of, so I really look forward to chatting about it. Jay.
It's going to Jamie. I'm just, one of the comments just made me giggle, and I yeah, got distracted.
I'm Jamie. Pen name's JD Jorson. I write the Omega Online series. My second book in that just came out 2 months ago. And like these guys, I love post-apocalyptic genre, and my books are nostalgic throwback to every post-apocalyptic book and movie. If you've seen it or read it, I probably have an homage to it in my book. But I wrote the first one. I didn't even know about the LitRPG genre when I wrote it. So my game mechanics are light, and then I add a little bit more in the second book after realizing that people actually want to read that. So, but yeah, I'm really excited to talk post-apocalyptic because I like anything end of the world doomsday scenario. So.
Okay, thank you, and Josh. Or Joshua.
Okay, my turn. I write a variety of stuff. I have The Ridden, which is Zombie Apocalypse, Game of Gods, and then my Portals fantasy series. All of them LitRPG or Gamelit, I guess, for The Ridden. And they all have various apocalyptic effects on their worlds. So, but yeah, I kind of branch out. I don't write just lit RPG or game lit. I also have urban fantasy. I have a spy thriller, and yeah, I try to write a little bit of everything, expand my audience. So.
Okay. Well, thank you. And Ryan, your hair is the talk of the town right now.
Yeah, seriously,
Everyone,
man. It's like what everybody's talking about. You're popular.
Well, I mean, I think that they're also highlighting yours too, Josh. Like
What?
for the being the hair, because I don't think Jamie or Lars really fall into like.
I actually thought you were going to talk about the highlights in Ryan's hair. Or
No,
was
those are
that
just
gray?
grays.
Oh,
That's why I had to get the haircut, guys. You didn't want to see it.
We're gonna go into some questions, and they won't be hair related. I hope. I think. We'll see.
I don't know.
Okay, so
we might have hair related issues in our post-apocalyptic worlds.
Okay, so of all of the post-apocalyptic novels in the genre, which world is the harshest to live in? And we're going to start with Ryan.
Okay, that's a good question. Of all the ones in the genre, there's a lot that would. I don't think there's a single one that's like not harsh to live in. Almost every one that I've read has been, 80%, 90% die within the first few days. Like Game of the Gods, actually, I'm pretty sure that's what it had. Like within the first few days. So.
Oh yeah, like 4 billion people died in that one.
Exactly, right? So I would say the one that would be my personal kind of scare factor was Reborn Apocalypse by Kern, I believe is who it is. Or no,
Kurt.
No, not Kern. Kurt. Okay, yeah.
Kurt.
And he's like that one scared me mostly because of that first realm that they're on. It has like kind of these like massive black spindly spider-like things that have crazy mouths that open up, and I just don't want to die to that. That's not fun. So that's my answer.
Yes, but no. Anything spiders for me is a no. Lars?
Yeah, mine is actually also a spin-off of Ryan's opinion, because K.B. Hammer's spin-off of the System Apocalypse, it's just you take the Australian wildlife and then you mutate that. It's just like, no.
Nightmare fuel.
Why do you do that? I mean, even if there are quite a few people surviving there, maybe compared to other continents, it's just new. But the worst one ever, I think, would be the Ultimatum of the Nameless God by Brian McKendrick. I read it the other day, and that's just dark. I mean, that's just 50 parts torture and 50 parts violence, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got to agree with it would be really hard to pick because most of them, the death rate, like you'd be lucky to even survive, day one, as soon as the system initiates her. But for me, there's Dungeon Crawler Carl. The fact that everything's televised, there's some things I would like to do that maybe, I don't want televised. So that aspect, when you think about, besides all unethical stuff, it's like you're not just constantly surviving all the time in every scenario. So it's like, what if you want a little romance? You don't want that stuff televised. So that has like a different aspect.
Okay. And Joshua?
I was actually just reading one by Blaise Corbin, Apocalypse Cultivation. And I mean, the main character gets freaking dropped into hell, like in chapter 1. I mean, I don't know. There was just something about that book where I wouldn't want to live in that particular world. There's lots of them, yeah, where everybody gets like killed right away. I mean, my own book, 4 billion people. But that one I wouldn't want to live in that one.
Yeah.
I guess the question there, Josh, is do you want a god to be giving you basically insomnia as well? Is that?
Yeah, I did do that, didn't I? Yeah, that was torture, man.
Hey, so going to a question from Sharon. Have you considered doing a story in the MC, which has been, I'm not even going to attempt the word. I can't say it. then later on a system style apocalypse happening. I know it's a genre term. I just don't. I'm not even going to try to butcher it. Yeah, there you go. That word. Gonna go with Joshua first since he did that.
I kind of actually am doing that. I mean, it's not quite, but with my Nameless Chronicles, the Portals of Albion, Portals of Change. I mean, Isekai is portal related. And in the third book of that series, the world more or less goes system apocalypse. Well, portal, not portal apocalypse. It goes just apocalypse for their world. The system is already there. So I'm kind of doing it. I'm doing the third book in Dungeon Alaria, and I might go apocalyptic on that one. And the main character actually is an isekai person, so I have considered it. We'll see how I pull it off. It's an interesting one to do for sure.
Jamie?
I'm also working on a story right now that's going to be different from my post-apocalyptic. It's going to be Dungeon Core, but it's going to be Portal fantasy, and the world is definitely going to be open to some later post-apocalyptic stuff in the real world. So, but that's definitely further down the road. I've got a couple books ahead of that before I wander into that territory.
Lars?
It might be a bit of a writery, nerdy answer, but I don't think so, because I think either each by themselves is a great way to introduce the reader to a new world. Like you get isekai, you know where they come from, and you have to introduce all these new things to them. The same for the system apocalypse, where you know where they're coming from, then the apocalypse shows up, and then you can introduce all these new elements. Together, I haven't really considered doing that, so no.
Okay. And Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, no, I've never thought of doing that. Yeah, no, I'm working on one that's something along those lines. But at the same time, it's kind of what Lars said as well. Like that's a big take. It's interesting because like I'm trying to tell different ways of apocalypse, whereas like the most common is to have your character live through that apocalypse moment, and that's a lot of fun, and I love doing that. But in System Misinterpret, it's actually a book for me that kind of takes place hundreds of years after the apocalypse, once society has kind of started back in and done what they've put themselves together, so to speak. So there's like that backbone of society again, but it's still apocalyptic. So it's interesting, and like that's, I think, what you then would have to decide is, if you're going to isekai somebody to a new world, are you wanting them to come back just before, where it's all peaceful and then it's going to go crazy, or do you want them to come back into a world that's already had a problem, and then they're kind of, because isekai usually ends up being the hero, comes back to save that world. So usually it would be after there's a problem, I think. But that's just my opinion on that.
And James, thank you. I just do what Geneva told me to do. So she just signed me up for like 4 or 5 or a couple of panels. That's all I do. So it's all Geneva's fault that I'm here a couple of times during this con, but I've definitely not done all of them or half of them. So, but thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure doing the moderating. So going on to a question from Jay Boyce. So if you had to live in any of these post-apocalyptic worlds, which one would you choose? And if anyone wants to jump on that first, I don't think anyone's choosing System Apocalypse Australia for some reason.
I think I'd do Xander Boyce's, but I'd have to be a red mage.
Oh.
I mean, I think I'd do Xander Boyce's post-apocalyptic world. I just like his star maps. I think that was one of the first more original ones, and so for me, that would be a world I'd really like to be in, and I'd want to be either a yellow Zathorite or a red mage and a lot of red Zathorite, even if I know Xander will probably say that there's certain things that I don't have that would to make me a red mage. I don't know, but that's what I'd want.
Okay. Anyone else want to jump on in this?
If I was to choose one of my own, it would be the Ridden, just because I know how the system works.
Gaming it.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I mean, I have it set up so you could totally game it if you really wanted to. But if I was to choose someone else's, that's a hard question because I mean, there's some of them would be really fun, and other ones, yeah, they're total death traps. I mean, uh, just to suck up, I'm gonna go with Ryan's. I'll go with Ryan's.
There's a chance for survival maybe in that
Yeah.
one. I don't know.
I think
Yeah,
Just gonna-
maybe. We'll see.
He'll just write you as a red shirt.
Yeah, oh, please no.
Lars?
I think I'd have to go with the Defiance of the Fall because it feels like actually percentage-wise, there's quite a large number that actually make it, and the systems and the societies that they build there aren't 100% crappy. I mean, some of them really are, but it feels sort of livable somewhere.
Okay. And Jamie?
Yeah, I was gonna go. Joshua stole my answer. I was gonna go with my own world because I know it and I can game it. And then as far as somebody else's, maybe Fey Nexus, Nathan Elmier. I like the redneck. I like the redneck angle. I was like, if the rednecks can do it, I think I can do it too.
Yeah, his is
Or
really cool too
Primal
because of the
Hunter.
dice system, his
Definitely. And
Yeah, his is roll dice roll based too.
Yeah.
So it kind of
Yeah.
takes a little bit. It's like, hey, my fate is in the hands of the dice. So
I actually did like that when I was reading his books. That was
Yeah.
that was an interesting way to do it.
So, I mean, it kind of is, James. It kind of
But
is.
we're all
I
exploiters.
want to live. Come on.
yeah.
And if they die in their own world, then well,
Yeah.
that happens
Guess we're getting
too.
no more books.
Yeah, feel free to die by the rules.
So we get a question from Kevin. So of all the ways that you have read and watched for the world as we know it to come to an end, which do you think is the most likely to happen? He's going to go with sentient garbage monsters rising up. So I don't think you can choose that.
All right.
So we're gonna start with Ryan.
But who would write that? I mean, who would write about a sentient garbage monster?
Well, now I think that's a challenge to Kevin, and he's gonna do that.
Well, Ryan, you already did that, man. Didn't you?
Did he?
Yeah, stuff like that. There's a huge, gigantic garbage monster in book 4 that turns into Jormungandr. Yeah, it's true. So the question was, what do we think the world, how it will actually end? Is kind of
what's the most likely how it's going to happen?
likely?
It was a very long worded question.
Okay, so I think, funny enough, like, it's going to be something that none of us are expecting, just because, it's like we get the new telescope and suddenly we discover like something new every day of like a star blowing up, and then they thought there was something faster than the speed of light for a second, and then, it's not true, but there's going to be something out there. Like the universe is so big that we're just going to suddenly get swatted like a fly by this massive, meteor or something that nobody will actually see coming, and suddenly it'll just be that's my personal thought, if there was actually going to be one, just because I feel like there's a lot that we don't know.
All right.
I think there's a deity out there, or maybe many, who are just at some point going to be so ticked off because people aren't doing as they said. I told you guys you're not supposed to eat pineapple on Wednesdays. And it's just wham. I can see that.
I like it.
I think it's going to be cosmic also, whether it be aliens or an asteroid or something from space, or our, screwing up trying to fix it. Like knowing that there's something coming and then trying to fix it, and then all of a sudden our antimatter machine blows up in our faces and sucks our world into a black hole. So
hubris.
Joshua?
The CERN Hadron Collider mixed with a completely random solar flare.
Okay.
I really like that. That reminds me of Boss Level, that movie. If I don't know if anybody's seen it, but I love that
I
movie.
think I
It's
watched
very
the
well
first
done.
5 minutes.
Oh, really? It's so good. Like just the repeating death. I thought that was so much fun.
So a portal opens up into the world that you have written. It's 10 years after your setting. Do you step through it?
Yes. I love my characters. To me,
Okay.
they're real people. They always have been. I'm just recording their journey. I mean, yeah, I hate the term, but I'm a pantser. I am literally recording their journey, not actually steering them. So yeah, being able to reconnect with them 10 years after what I wrote, that would be awesome. I'd love that.
Okay. Jamie?
Well, I think it depends on if you can bring people with you, I suppose. I'm not going alone. It's like I'd rather maybe shove some people through, and then stay where I'm at.
I saw you nodding yes, Lars. So do you have anything else to add?
Well, there is definitely the one I'm about to write is going to be quite a long scope, so I'll still be able to game it and just end up like King of the World at that point. So yeah, totally.
Okay. Ryan.
Yeah, I think so. I like it, especially because my world's been solidifying over the course of the book. So like, a year's gone by and they're getting more solid and more solid. So I think after 10 years, you're stepping more into, you're still in an apocalyptic world, but a much more stable apocalyptic world. But I do like Jamie's answer quite a bit. So maybe I take a tank and a healer with me so I don't have to get hurt,
Okay. Speaking of Australia, saying that there's an excellent panel going on. Your KT, your world was definitely the one that we didn't want to go to. Just as an FYI.
I'm sort of going to Australia now, Katie.
We are avoiding Australia.
Alright, so in most of your System Apocalypse books, everyone
Dies.
before it starts. Dies, I'm guessing. I think that says everyone dies before it starts. Do any of you have
authors that live?
Yeah,
So I'm going to go with I'm letting Patrick Rothfuss live because I really need the next book in Name of the Wind.
Okay. You guys are catching this,
He's already written it like 3 different times. He's just a perfectionist.
I know, right? No. I think it's funny because, like, you talk about it and, like, you write these stories and you start realizing as you get farther down with that sort of death rate, in your own worlds, would you have survived it? And I think when you're kind of more honest with yourself, it's probably that, like, for me at least, I probably wouldn't have. So I would like to believe I would, but probably not.
Okay. Lars?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll die like one of the first. I have no basic skills that are useful anywhere. So yeah. Bye.
My writers live on in homages. I have road signs, Cormac McCarthy Road, and Etern. So my authors all live on through that, but their actual physical bodies, not likely.
Okay. And Joshua?
I have a few pop up as mentions in my town. Like Charles Dean appeared in Game of Gods 4, and what's his name? Old Grumpy Pants appears in Game of Gods 5.
Wilmarth?
No. Yeah, Wilmarth.
Yeah, okay.
I forgot his name for a second. So I mean, a few appear like that, but me personally, I think I would probably die at the beginning of Game of Gods. I mean, yeah, no, right away, I'd be dead.
Okay. So this one's from Demi. What's your favorite non-lit RPG post-apocalyptic world?
I haven't read anything non-lit RPG in a while.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, I mean, I love obviously a lot of zombie stuff, but I feel like Walking Dead, but that's not really a book. Well, I mean, it is. It was, it was beforehand. It was what, a comic book, right, or a graphic novel, I think. But that being said, like, no, unfortunately, I haven't read anything recent enough that I could say with certainty and remember it well enough to say that it's my favorite. But I do love the zombie stuff, and that also could be a shout out to David Petrie, I believe is how you say it, or is it Petrie? I always forget.
I think it's Petrie.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and his Necrotic Apocalypse, because it's a lot of fun too. Good old Digby Graves.
Is there anyone else like?
Yeah, I would probably go with zombies. Oh, sorry, Lars.
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
I would go with the zombies too. There's just so many zombie worlds. You know, you've got the World War Z style, which is a little bit more reality based. I would probably go with one of the less reality based, like maybe one of Nicholas Sansbury Smith has lots of post apocalyptic worlds, like with his Helldivers, and he's got some really cool, interesting worlds. So I'd probably go with one of his.
I was going to mention those two exact books. I mean, World War Z and Helldivers.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I actually
read
have
what you
those. I
do.
still have to read them.
I guess they're on your
world.
list.
Yeah, fantastic world building for
Yeah.
both of them.
Yeah, exactly. That part
I was thinking maybe
with the French catacombs and the zombies under the water. Yeah.
I was thinking maybe
And-
Dresden Files or I just had the other one. Monster Hunter International. I'm not sure if they count, but you know, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
Slow burn.
I don't know if they go full
apocalyptic,
post apocalypse.
MHI isn't really a yeah. I haven't read the.
I mean, they've been
full-on
close,
series. I read
but
the spin-offs, but yeah. All right. And I really like this next question from Sharon. What's the weirdest thing that you've had to research for a post-apocalyptic book? So let's go with Ryan first.
How to make bombs, how I think the funniest one for me was the long-term effects of radiation, like hard water, from like a nuclear power plant, because I was making kind of like a dungeon that had happened at the nuclear power plant, and I was trying to make it like that would all happen in seconds, if you fell in this hard water. And so I had to do all these things, and I was searching up how to make a bomb and nuclear waste at the same time. And it just was, I looked up at my tabs at one point and went, "Oh, this is bad. It looks like I'm trying to kill a whole bunch of people. I gotta stop." But yeah, that's probably the weirdest. Otherwise, it's when you take a deep dive into like mythology or something like that, because some myths are, a little dark or not told, like the way you remember the myths from a kid is not actually how they are as an adult.
Now, when you do these searches, are you using incognito mode? Because I feel like Canada is going to be like, why is this guy researching this stuff?
I just wait till I take the trip to the 20 bucks to 50K in the UK. Then that's when I'll get flagged. You can't come over here.
Bring your own.
We know your history.
Yeah.
Lars, weirdest thing that you've researched?
I think I'd have to go with I spent a crazy amount of time just researching agriculture, as in if you have to feed like 10,000 persons, how much land would you have to actually work on? How would you have to treat it? How would you have to water it in order for it to be sustainable and work? I mean, it's stupid how long time I've spent on that. It's not really that weird, but it just, when you go off on a tangent and then just get lost. That happens.
End up down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Jamie?
Yeah, this post-apocalyptic and survivalist and all that stuff I've been for years and years and years. I've been obsessed with it. So, but for actual research, it's strange because it would probably be like a series of movies, like kind of a blind spot I had where I was like, when I started writing, I was like, I'm kind of missing this whole genre of, which is some of the B movies like that came out of other countries, like some of the like Italian post-apocalyptic stuff is just absolutely wild. Like Rats, Nights of Terror is just insane, and like the New Barbarians and these different apocalyptic B movies that you're just like, and you just watch them and you're like, how did they even get away with that? Like, who let them film this and put this out? So it would probably be something like that.
All right. And Joshua.
A lot of what I research ends up being mythology, local, as well as gods and stuff like that. I like to include, like, the local stuff for when my characters go somewhere specific. So, like, the Hookman, Shug monkeys, things like that. But the weirdest thing I think was one of my latest books. I had to look up like how you would actually make a uh ah what are they called, a slingshot made out of bone. And so I had to look up how they would actually temper the bone, how they would make rubber bands out of tendons, the everything. It went down deep dive hole. It was interesting, but it was odd.
And what part
Red
of the
flags.
body makes the best slingshot?
For that one, I think it ended up being the thigh bones, because they were making it out of monsters and stuff. So I could get a little
Okay.
unrealistic. But I mean, yeah. Then you had the tendons coming out of the leg and stuff like that. I mean, yeah. I had to be a little unrealistic because tendons, you get dry and you get sinew and stuff like that. And when they dry, they're no longer springy, so you actually have to treat them. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's not normally the way it's done, but it's fantasy, so I can play around.
I'm just gonna do a brief housekeeping piece is that we are using StreamYards. So there is a link in the post. If you click on the link, it'll grant StreamYards permission to your Facebook. And then when it'll redirect you right back to Facebook, and you'll show up as a not Facebook user if you would like your name to be known. I mean, we could just be looking at Facebook anyways and see who you are. But just figured if you wanted your name on this screen. So going off of this research question as well, how much research do you do into firearms and stuff like that for the fans that might be very picky about? I know we mentioned Monster Hunter International. I know that they are like, that is an intense piece, but what research have you done to make sure that things are very accurate for your readers and that they don't call you out on those consistencies? Joshua, I'm gonna go with you first.
I do a fair bit of research. I mean, I also have used guns since I was a kid. Um, I mean, I still get things wrong. It's impossible to get everything right. Um, but I don't tend to use guns a lot in my book just because I don't really think they're super effective against monsters for the most part. In like zombie books, yeah, but for monsters, like for actual lit RPG monsters, I think maybe like levels 1 to 5 they're effective, and then after that they just go the way of all things. But yeah, I try to do a fair bit of research just because I want to get all the parts correct. How effective they actually are at range, things like that. Because I can't remember all that on my own anyways. So
Okay, Jamie.
Yeah, I my first book in the Omega Online series has firearms, and then I actually got rid of them for my second book, just because, like Joshua said, it's a lot more interesting. The melee weapons are just more interesting than guns in general. As far as writing scenes, like action scenes and stuff, they're way more fun to write than. And then I shot him. Like there's lots of ways to say it, sure, but it's a lot cooler when you're talking about the melee weapons. But if I put a weapon in there, I make sure that I research it. In my book, my character's first firearm that he happens upon is the um, from the Gunslinger's revolver from Stephen King's Dark Tower series. And so I made sure, if I'm gonna use like an homage like that, I'm gonna make sure I have the right bullets and such for it. So like I said, I don't have a lot of books in there, but the ones that I do, I just made sure I researched so I got that right, because that's just one thing I don't need people breathing down my necks about using the wrong weapons. So
Absolutely. Lars?
Well, I'm completely with you two. I tend to avoid guns, not 100% for the same reason, but mostly because I think that you could actually argue that guns would be insanely efficient and be able to, well, to really compete with magic also at a higher level. If you take something like Gatling guns and you have fighter jets and whatnot, and I don't want to get into that discussion, so I tend to not use them. at all. And also I'm Danish and we don't have guns, so I know jack about it. So basically my research is usually about the more technical stuff like mining, agriculture, again, the sciencey stuff that a few people or a lot of people know more about than I do, but a few people would get nitpicky about.
Okay. And Ryan.
So for the most part, my guns are all kind of magic, futuristic weaponry. After a certain point, like at the first stages of the apocalypse, there was, obviously some gun use because they still existed and they were somewhat effective. But I found that it was more fun to make kind of weapons and make recharge rates and stuff based on the magic system. So I found that was a lot more fun. But funny enough, the one story I did do research for a gun is one that I'm working on with Xander called Shooter. It's a basketball lit RPG, and Xander is an ex military guy, I believe Coast Guard specifically. And I was like, okay, Xander, you do the research on this. I did what I could, and within a couple days after giving it to our alpha readers, we got called out, and something was wrong about the gun. So it does happen quite often. Even when you do all the research, there was just, we looked at one model that, was obsolete at that point, and a newer model had come out or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, sorry to call you out on that one, Xander, but it was pretty funny.
But good thing you handed it over to him. Not my fault.
Exactly.
Yeah. I will admit, like, even watching for consistencies in like movies and stuff like that, I paused a movie once and I'm like, that he said a 9mm, but on the side of that gun it said 45. I'm like, that they showed the incorrect weapon. Like they either they said that, it's like people pick up on the very small inconsistencies. So from Brian, I like this one. Is who is your dream team for a post-apocalyptic team? From a pool, like you could choose from a pool of authors or from established characters. Who would be your dream team? This one's like a think hard on it type.
So I would immediately want the people that are reincarnated, so like, the Jason from is it Tower of Heaven, I think is Jason, and then I'd want the guy from Reborn Apocalypse. I forget some MC's names. A lot of that stuff blends, but I'd want all the people that came back in time on my team, because then they could tell me all the things that are going to come along. So those people would be on my dream team for sure. Then obviously, I'd want my own cast, just because they always get out of it. They always seem to take the upper hand, I guess. Spoiler alert, sorry. But otherwise, that would be kind of my dream team as far as main characters go. I'm going to leave it at main characters. So there you
go. Okay. Lars?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, getting someone who got reborn, that would be the perfect cheat skill. And on top of that, you'd want somebody like the dude from Defiance of the Fall, or like Asurant Healer or something like that. No, that isn't even a poster box, sorry. But one of those mega overpowered main characters who will just be able to smash anything. And then finally, I want one of the harem MC, maybe the dude from Apocalypse Gates.
Alvin?
Because, both because I love the series, but also because, well, everybody hates those harem dudes. And they would love me instead, so I would never have him in trouble. They'd be going for him.
Alvin's he's also an asshole. Like you need to have an asshole on your team. Like if they die, they die, but then they're also the one to piss everyone off, and you don't have to. So, Jamie.
I'd definitely go with one of those real OP guys, like Defiance of the Fall or System Apocalypse. I mean, come on, like you just get buddy up with them and you got it made. Like you make yourself useful to them, you got it made. They're gonna treat you well. So it would definitely be those OP guys. Then I'd probably throw in some comic relief from one of the ones from like a dungeon, just to spice things up a little bit. Put Donut in there or something like that.
Good old Princess Donut.
Yeah.
Oh, and Ryan's MC from Star Tower for cooking.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you definitely need somebody with the food knowledge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Food porn is a thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Joshua.
I mean, everybody else kind of stole my answer. I mean, yeah, my own cast of MCs, and then Defiance of the Fall, Primal Hunter, get all of the OP guys, and then you just get a couple of red shirts to ditch along the way as you're running away.
Straight out of Riddick, eh? Just
Somebody slow, somebody who's very slow moving.
Exactly. When you hit the ultra OP boss that you absolutely cannot defeat, you send the red shirt in, and then the rest of you book it.
no, you just drag them behind you with a rope, right? It's fine.
I really like the question from Dawn just now. I know I'm skipping questions, but do your characters have a pet or a companion in your books before people?
Yeah.
So, Josh, I'll go with you first since you just verbally were like, yeah.
Yeah, almost all my characters always have some form of companion or a pet. Charles had Allie. She was a husky, and then she eventually evolved. At the end of book 4, she got her humanish form.
I'm not there
Um,
yet. Spoiler.
oh, come on. It's out on audio, man. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. You got no excuse.
I'm up at 3, man.
Oh.
Sorry.
Portals of Albion, my Nameless Chronicles. The little sister has 3 walking teddy bears. The Ridden, he has uh, another dog. I mean, I usually go with some form of dog, although Dungeon Alaria, he had a kitsune. But yeah, I almost always go with a companion just because people associate with them very well, and you can humanize them. They're enjoyable to write. I like them.
Jamie?
Yeah, my on my Omega Online series, my companion, he talks about having his favorite companion was a bird who could fly overhead and then spot loot and bandits and all this stuff and come back and let him know. And that was his. But there's also a psychic dog who has a link with. It's not my main character, so he can't hear what the dog's thinking, but it's an homage to Blood from A Boy and His Dog, that movie and that comic. Um, yeah, I love companions. They're great. You can bounce stuff off of them. I have a AI companion that this guy like hates right away because she's AI and worships this AI god basically, and he's just like, oh great, now I know what I'm gonna hear every time that she talks. Like so. Yeah, it's just fun to play off of them because that's one of the best things about video games that have companions. It's just hearing those side stories and stuff. But sometimes you get those companions, you're just like, they're dragging you through this stuff and you're just done with them like after the first mission, but you still gotta keep going in order to fill out their storyline. So yeah, the companions are tons of fun.
One way to get Dawn to read any book is just putting a bird in there, and if you name it Bobby, that's even better. Nah, Lars, go right ahead.
Well, I think I saw Sharon writing there that she just listened to my book 1 in the series. And so I will have to say, in World of Change, there is a pet. I will not talk about it. In my other series, he actually adopts an insane killer monster, which is more or less a hairless grizzly bear with the ability to move around the bones in its body to trap prey, called a clencher. And I really like that one.
Okay.
Yeah, you can only do that because he's a dragon, probably.
Pretty much.
In mine, if you don't know Azoth yet, Azoth is a Manticore Chimera. So he's my companion in book 1 all the way through book 4 of Etherclaps. People seem to love him, especially Luke's voice of Azoth, and he loves all of you guys too. And then in System Misinterpret, I definitely have a whole range of characters that kind of are in there. So companions are there, but they're all. I try to evolve them a lot more. So I think one review I got to read, which was funny, was somebody said I'm building the UN of tower climbing. So yeah, that was fun.
Okay, I'm gonna go with this question from Sharon. It's what common apocalyptic tropes do you try to avoid? So, I mean, we all know that there are tropes that work, and then there are some that just seem maybe too cliche or something like that. I'm gonna just go. I'm just going right back and forth and stuff like this. I'm gonna go back to Ryan for this.
Okay. So for me, I couldn't pick out a specific trope that I would try to avoid because depending on what I'm writing, I may want to use that. Tropes to me are something that if you're going to avoid them or you're going to use them, know why you're going to use them or know why you're going to avoid them. And make your choice. Just don't hit everything and make it cliche, right? Like if you hit every trope along the way, your book's going to be cliche. But if you pick some to make sure that it fits the genre, I think that's what we're looking for. Like tropes are tropes for a reason. They got used. What's great with LitRPG is that we are making a lot of our own tropes, and some of the things that we're like, oh, this happens in every book. It didn't at one point, right? Like, I mean, I think when my first book came out, I was immediately called out for having my character start alone in Canada when he survived the apocalypse, and they said it was too similar to System Apocalypse Tao Wong's with John Lee, and I was like, just because I live in Canada, like, I don't know what to say. But like those tropes exist, and part of that reason that trope is there is because you get a chance to meet the main character, and so there's no trope that I will avoid unless I know why I'm avoiding it, and no trope I'll hit unless I know why I'm hitting it. So.
Canada's pretty vast. I think that there's more than just one person who might have started alone.
Maybe because you use the word territories instead of states.
Yeah.
I mean, if you started with a moose, we would have understood too.
It would have been the bodyguard for sure.
Yeah. Lars?
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly say there are a lot of tropes I'd avoid, but there are some that at this point I would say in LitRPG and game lit are a bit overdone, and hence I might not use that unless it fit the situation, as Ryan said. So maybe like one of the most common ones to use, because it pushes the main character the exact way we want to go, is the good old looking for a family member who's lost somewhere or they've got split up. And that might not be my go-to choice, but apart from that, yeah, like Ryan said, you need to know why you used your tropes and then you choose from that. Like if you want a relatively happy post-apocalyptic story, I know that sounds like a oxymoron or something, but I mean, like Ryan, your Star Tower is also not that sad in the general way of it. And if you do that, well, there are certain tropes you just want to avoid. So, yeah. Okay. Jamie?
Yeah, I got a lot of flack for the trope that I avoided on mine, which is OPMC. My MC's like not the opposite of OP. He's he's not a noob when it comes to video games, but when he goes into this world, when you feel pain for the first time, it's like it changes things for you. It's not a game anymore. So and that was some of the reviews and such that I got back on that were like, this guy's an idiot. Like, I don't want to listen to them. I want my OPMC. And I'm like, well, he could be an OPMC later, right? Like he can build his way that way. But yeah, so I just try to avoid that. Just I don't like making things easy for my MCs. So and a lot of readers in post-apocalyptic genre really like OPMCs, just like to just see them tear through stuff and just absolutely destroy, like the world destroyers. So yeah, I didn't do that.
I'm with you, Jamie.
And Joshua?
I think there's only one that I actively avoid, and that's just making my character an idiot. There have been so many books where I pretty much drop them because the author makes the character an idiot for one specific scene, because they have to get out of it, or they have to get out of whatever issue they put them in. And even though they normally act smart for that specific scene, they're suddenly an utter idiot. and it just makes no sense. It's very frustrating to me, and I just abhor that particular trope. And it shows up all over the genre and other genres. Actually, I mean, it's always there. But I hate it, so I try to avoid it. Don't know if I'm always successful, but
Okay. So I'm going to go with a question from Sharon again. It's, do you use any special software or programs to keep track of notes, or is it, Google Docs, Google Sheets, or, just spreadsheets? How do you track all of this? So I'm going to start with Joshua.
I keep track of everything in Scrivener. I write in Microsoft Word, and then I transfer everything to Scrivener using that to keep track of my chapters and my notes. I just prefer to write in Word first and then transfer it over. It just makes everything nice and organized for me.
Okay. And Jamie?
Yeah, I write in Word. I format in Word. I do all my stuff in Word. My stuff's not real crunchy, but I do have follow stuff with Excel to make sure, like with inventory, to make sure that I'm staying within confines of my weight limit for my character's inventory. And then I did track stats on that as well, just to make sure that I'm tracking level wise, that it makes sense, since like the level system has exponential growth, and I don't want to level up a character before they can hit that, just based on time wise. So but I don't get too heavy into that. Like, I know some people's have these really detailed Excel sheets that go crazy.
Yeah. Looking at you, Jay Boyce, you're out there.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah. So Lars?
Yeah, my first series taught me how to use Excel. I didn't know how to use it beforehand. So yeah, that's what I use, and then Scrivener for the overviews, like Josh.
Okay. And apparently Ryan.
Oh,
We lost her.
we lost Jen. It looks like, but yeah, it looks
She
like she was going
froze.
to make fun of me some more.
No, I'm sorry. Did I freeze? You froze on my end, Ryan.
did
So
you?
I was like, you raised your hand for spreadsheets, so I think we know what part of your answer is going to be.
Yeah,
That,
yeah,
and I wasn't making
100%.
fun of you.
I'm sure 100% spreadsheets, but at the same time, I didn't. I started with spreadsheets, and then they've gotten more complicated as I start tracking more and more things. I think it's really good to know. I was an electrical engineer already, so for me that was quite an easy leap to make. And I've actually helped many people build out their spreadsheets so they can track the stuff that they want to. I've also made it so I can track my character's mood and where they are on their personality scale and everything like that on my spreadsheet. So basically, I've always got that one thing open so I can refer to what they should respond with or things like that, as well as keep track of where their levels are and how strong they might be, etc. So yeah, definitely spreadsheets. I think that's the only answer for me.
Okay. We're good on. Sorry. Just. I think I saw a late minute comment from something, and I got confused for a minute. I think I'm gonna wrap up with one more question for you guys, and then we'll end up wrapping up this panel. So, which character in your own books would you classify as the most likely to be a red shirt? So I'm gonna start with Lars.
Yeah, there's this sidekick to my Bard character who's called Lyle. He's this young, lovable, blonde knight who actually later in the books, he does a lot to protect the main character, and they grow an amazing rapport, and they just grow tighter and tighter, and he talks a lot about how he's trying to protect the main character, and it's just I can just see it coming. I mean, he's just growing even cuter and more powerful and protective. It's going to go back.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening yet, but lie.
And we'll go to Jamie next.
Yeah, I suppose my red shirts would be the characters that I kill off quickly. The ones I don't remember their names. Like, that would be my red shirts, because that's basically the purpose they served.
Okay. And Joshua.
For me, it would probably be Corey and Crystal. Kira's parents in the Game of Gods. They're the town administrators for pretty much everything, but they also never leave the town. If they ever did, I'm pretty sure they would just get one-shotted by an absolute scrub of a monster.
Do it.
No,
Right.
she would be devastated.
Well, whoever's going to give the best emotional response, probably. So as long as I've connected the reader well enough to that character, I'd consider, killing them off. There will be some deaths that, are kind of off screen and maybe won't affect the reader much. But if I'm literally looking for somebody to, and as Lars already put it, that people are falling in love with, and like it's maybe even stealing the spotlight. Well, Rocky can't have that. He's jealous. No, but that's true. And it's what fits the story best. But yeah, for me, I think in the first one, two kids die, which was a huge pivotal moment that really progressed the story. And it actually hit me hard too when I killed them. And I didn't like doing that. I think Sander called them child soldiers though, and that's how he got through that emotionally, probably.
I mean, they weren't potatoes.
They weren't potatoes. Yeah, that would have really shook Xander's world.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us today for this panel. There is a Discord going on, so if we didn't get to your questions, there were so many good questions here today. So please drop them into the Discord. The authors will be there. They'll be more than happy to continue chatting. Geneva's only allowed us an hour. Everyone has blame Geneva.
Geneva's so mean.
I know. Jeez, Geneva.
She is.
But I'm going to give you guys all another moment to reintroduce yourselves for anyone who joined us mid session, and just highlight your books and anything else that you would like to add into your end comments. Like I said, there's a Discord. There is the website, the litcon.net, which all of the proceeds, there's charity donations, and then 10% of the proceeds from purchasing from the shop will go to Heart to Heart International, which is relief benefits for the Ukraine. So please check that out as well. They have some really nice shirts. There's 3 different styles. So I'm going to just start right off with Ryan and doing our wrap up.
I'll try to go quick here, give everybody time. So
we've got a few more minutes. So you guys.
We do. Okay.
Yeah, just don't go on for 5-10 minutes, and you'll be fine. Geneva will mute you.
Oh, perfect. So I'm Ryan DeBruin. I write Ether Collapse, which is my premier series. It's 4 books. I'm working on book 5 right now, so look for that one in the new year. My next book that will be coming out is actually this Sunday. It's book 2 of System Misinterpret, and in lead up to that, book 1 is on sale right now for 99 cents. So if you're looking for a book to read, that one's on sale. And then the book after that will probably be Shooter with Xander Boyce. That's a basketball lit RPG. So if anybody's really into sports lit RPGs, that's going to be a fun one. It's been a fun one to write. I can't wait to get it out. Otherwise, I think that's everything. And I will see anybody in Discord who wants to keep chatting.
Yep. Lars?
Yeah, well, I'll just add, yes, you should definitely get Star Tower by Ryan DeBruin. I am reading it right now, and it's freaking amazing. For my own stuff, if you like boards, and well, not the kinds who just screw everything that moves, but the kind who actually think about music and diplomacy and blackmail and the usual board stuff, then my World of Chains is still available. And if you just like violence, gore, and tearing stuff limb from limb, then my Master of the Horde Dragon series is also very much there. They'll be finished, both of them, with 6 books in each inside the next year or so. So plenty to choose from.
Okay.
Jamie?
I'm also reading Ryan's Ether Collapse series right now, so just to pimp out Ryan's work. And then I have my Omega Online series. The first book is Digital Wasteland, and then my second one is Melee Madness. That just came out a couple months ago. And then I have I'm going into the world of Royal Road, and I'm going to be releasing very soon. I don't know if NaNoWriMo is going to get in the way of that, but I might be pushing it back after NaNoWriMo. But it's going to be Dungeon Core, Dungeon Mercenaries, the name of the book, so keep your eyes out for that.
Awesome. And Joshua.
Okay. I've written Portals of Change, if I can get it in the camera, and Game of Gods. I actually just finished Game of Gods 5, doing the rewrites and editing right now. You can find that on my Patreon. And just working on continual new books. I'll be putting a new Dungeon Core book up on Royal Road, I think, fairly soon. I want to get a couple more chapters booked up for that one before I do it. But yeah, you can just writing more and more books, and I'll be up on the Discord along with Ryan and everybody else as soon as we're done.
And just as another friendly reminder that we do have authors, we do have takeovers on the Facebook page. I believe Jamie will be having one right after this.
Yep.
Okay, and then there will be another panel in about an hour from now. So we still have panels going on from now till Wednesday. So please come back and check out those. Support the authors, support the takeovers on the Facebook page, and all of that. So really appreciate you all hanging out with us today. Thank you.
Thanks,
and
guys.
See you around.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.